Everyone has logged on, so we will go ahead and get started. This is Misty Woods, and I'll be conducting today's call, and today's call is the July monthly call. We don't have a whole lot of information to cover today. This is our agenda, so we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming administrative and procurement reviews for next school year. We'll have a couple of slides about seamless summer option, and then we'll go over some reminders about the paid lunch equity tool training that we recently went over. And then we'll talk about some reminders for the upcoming school year. We'll go over a few memos that were recently posted, and then we'll talk about upcoming trainings and events, as well as the Louisiana Tray of the Week for the summer. And then finally, we'll talk about some changes for the Division of Nutrition Support. All right, so let's first talk about the administrative reviews and the procurement reviews. So for next school year, for the upcoming school year, we have 33 scheduled reviews. We have a lot of people still asking, when is my review? So if you're unsure of what year you will receive an administrative review, the administrative review schedule can be found on the CNP website under the resources. We are in the process of updating that form. So currently it's the old version, and we will have an updated version coming soon once we add all the review closures from this school year and the follow-ups from this school years to it, but it is current, which is on the website. Once we finish the follow-up reviews that I just mentioned, we will begin scheduling, actually some have already started, some technical assistance visits for those SFAs that are being reviewed during the 26-27 school year. So if you have state agency staff that has reached out to you to schedule technical assistance, please respond to them so that we can get those visits set up to help you prepare for your upcoming review. Meaning LDOE is planning to conduct approximately 50% of the scheduled reviews for the 26-27 school year, and then CNR will do the other 50%. We do not have a finalized schedule yet. That will be coming soon. We normally have that finalized around the time that, beginning of August is normally when we have a finalized review schedule. Okay, let's briefly talk about Seamless Summer, some reminders about Seamless Summer. So as we talked about in that training, the SSO does follow the same academic school year, so it's July 1st through June 30th. So if you are a sponsor that is planning to operate this month, the month of July, it's going to require you to submit a new SSO application. So you did one for June, and this would be one for July or possibly into August if you do operate into August for SSO. So it does require two separate applications. Once the new application opens for the 26-27 school year is when you will submit that SSO application. Let's talk about some paid lunch equity tool reminders. We had a recent training on that, so I took a few slides from that training to remind those SFAs that do need to complete the PLE tool. So the purpose of this is for regulations at 7 CFR 210.14E. It does require that each school year that SFAs have to establish prices for paid lunches. Now, just as a reminder, non-pricing schools are exempt from this requirement because you do not charge for meals. So in regards to paid lunch equity, there's some additional guidance that you can refer to. So the first is Memo SP 39-2011, and it's just basic guidance on the paid lunch equity and revenue from non-program foods. And then Memo SP 06-2026 is the actual memo with the guidance on paid lunch equity for the upcoming school year for 26-27. The paid lunch equity tool is also on the CNP website for those of you that need to download it and complete it. So like I just mentioned, that memo SP 06-2026 is the guidance for the current tool that we have. So I just want to briefly talk again about paid lunch equity exemptions for those SFAs that do qualify, and then we're going to also talk about for the SFAs that do not qualify. So for 26-27 school years, SFAs with a positive or zero balance in their nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th, 2025, are exempt from PLE pricing requirements that are found in regulations. However, while it's not required, those exempt SFAs may still use the PLE tool to complete the steps necessary to determine their target prices for their paid lunches for the 26-27 school year. And then there are SFAs, which some people don't, they will not qualify for that exemption, is if you had a negative balance in the nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th, 2025. If that's the case, then you are required to complete those paid lunch equity tool. I always tell people even if you're exempt, I would highly recommend you still complete it to see where you're at so you know what to price your paid lunches at. So whenever you're going to be having to use this tool, there's detailed instructions and it's in the instructions tab of the tool. It's highly recommended that you read the instructions in entirety before you begin doing the calculations and completing the tool. The tool does assist the SFA in calculating the weighted average price requirement for the 26-27 school year. It also calculates the required weighted average price increase, and it also calculates the required revenue from non-federal sources that potentially would be needed. So here for the instructions, just a little bit about Paid Lunch Equity Tool in general. It is created or was created to help school food authorities calculate their new weighted average price requirement for the school year and determine what price increase is needed to meet their requirement. As we talked about in the training, there are three methods for how SFAs can meet the requirement, and the tool will assist them in making those calculations based on the method that is chosen. The version that is currently posted only applies the tool, I should say, the version of the tool that is applied, it only applies to the 26-27 school year, and a new version will be issued for the upcoming school year for 27-28. Throughout the tool, those cells that are shaded in green color are designated as entry cells. So those are the cells that you're going to enter numbers into. The SFA must enter in that data into those cells for the tool to make the appropriate calculation. So a lot of times when you enter information into certain cells, it will auto-populate into other cells. So SFAs who on a weighted average charge less than the targeted weighted average price of $4.16 for your paid lunches in 25-26 school years, this tool is telling you that you are required to make an adjustment to your weighted average price for 26-27. So for your paid lunches, if you charged less than $4.16 last school year, this tool is going to calculate to say that you need to make adjustments for your lunch prices. And basically, the backstory to this is that the adjustment is made by adding a 2% rate increase plus the most recent consumer price index, which is currently 3.85%, to the weighted average paid lunch price from 25-26. So just if you're wondering how that number came about, that is how they got that number. So, like we just mentioned about methods, you actually have three different methods that you can choose from to meet that weighted average price requirement for the school year. So method one, you could raise your weighted average prices of your paid lunches. Method two, you would contribute revenue from non-federal sources to your nonprofit school food service account. Or method three, you kind of split it. You raise your prices and you contribute revenue from non-federal sources. So it's basically combining the first two methods. So depending on what method you choose will determine which tab of the calculator that you will complete. So if you choose for method one, if you're choosing that you're going to raise your prices, you only need to complete the 26-27 price raise calculator tab, which is located in tab 4 of the tool. If you choose to contribute non-federal sources to your nonprofit school food service account, then you would only need to complete the 26-27 non-federal calculator tab, which is tab 5 of the tool. And then if you choose method 3, where it's a combination of both, you would need to complete that school year 26-27 split calculator tab, which is tab 6 of the tool. And again, when you're completing this tool, you will follow the instructions for the method that you have selected to do. So once you finish completing the tool or different tabs of the tool, it is recommended that you save your PLE report. So last year, when you completed the tool, you should have saved your PLE report from your 25-26 tool available to use this as a reference, as a lot of the information that you need to complete on the PLE tool for 26-27 is summarized in that report. So just like when you complete it for this year, you're going to generate a report, and it's going to be called the PLE report for 26-27 school year. And you're going to save that because you're going to need to reference it back whenever you're going to complete that tool for 27-28. So always save your PLE reports tab and make sure you use that for your tools that you need to complete. It does save you some time than having to go back from the very beginning to start from 2010-2011 school year. So some final reminders about the PLE tool. As we said before, it calculates the weighted average price of all student paid lunch prices. The maximum annual average price requirement or increase required is 10 cents. So you do not have to increase more than 10 cents. However, when you complete the tool, it may show that you need less than 10 cents to increase, but you do have the option to increase more than 10 cents if you choose. But again, 10 cents is the minimum that you would need to increase by. Okay, let's go over some quick reminders for the upcoming 26-27 school year. We've been getting a few questions about some things, so I just wanted to put these reminders out there. We've been getting a lot of questions about reimbursement rates for next school year. When we are made aware that the reimbursement rates are available, we will notify SFAs. Just FYI, last year we didn't receive the Federal Register. It wasn't posted until July 24th. So we don't know whether to expect it after July 24th this year or before July 24th. But for reference, it was towards the end of July when we received it last year. When it is available, it will be posted to the USDA website. They normally send us a notification that the Federal Register has been posted, and it goes to the website. We will make you aware when that happens. In the meantime, if you want to check, you can use this link on this slide. Also on our CNP website, we do have the reimbursement rates link to the USDA website, so you can click on that at any time. And once 26-27 shows up on there, it will automatically show up on that website. So if you want to continue to check, you can, but as soon as we know about it, we will let you know. So we also had a couple of people ask about what we need to do at the beginning of the school year as reminders. What do we need to post? So one of those things is the income eligibility guidelines. So 7 CFR 245.5 requires SFAs to publicly announce each school year at the beginning of the school year, and the notice has to include the eligibility criteria for free and reduced price meals. So we do have a notice of public release template on our CNP website that you can use. Linked on this slide as well are the eligibility guidelines. It's a link to the USDA website where those eligibility guidelines are found. And then also I have on this slide as a reference is the eligibility manual for school meals that you can kind of go over as far as what's required as far as public notification. We had some questions about free and reduced lunch applications. So USDA does offer prototypes, or we like to call them examples, of school meal applications, as well as sample instruction documents intended to assist both state and local officials in the design their own application materials. The revised English and Spanish application prototypes and instructions are currently available on the USDA website, and we on our website we have links to the USDA prototype application. So if you click on the link on the slide, it'll take you to our website where it takes you to USDA's website after you click on it. The application prototypes meet all legal requirements and reflect design best practices identified by USDA through focus testing and other research. The applications are available in both paper and web-based formats and may be adapted by state or local agencies for household use. So if you're in need of using a prototype application, you can go to USDA's website and download it there, and you can get to it from our website. For those of you that are CEP, here's a couple of reminders about that. We have the CNP media release and the CEP letter to household templates on the CNP website. We also have the CEP claiming percentage tools on the website. And then as I also linked the CEP planning and implementation guidelines on this slide as a reference. So again, make sure that if you're CEP, you are sending out these releases at the beginning of the school year. Okay, we have a few memos to go over, not many. The first one is actually a USDA memo, and it's on expanding fluid milk options in child nutrition programs. So on May 8th, USDA, Food Nutrition Administration, so just FYI, I think we may have mentioned this before. It used to be Food Nutrition Services, now it's Food and Nutrition Administration. They published the final rule expanding fluid milk options in child nutrition programs that became effective on June 8th of 2026. And this rule expands the fluid milk options by allowing operators of NSLP and school breakfast, CACFP, and the special milk program to offer whole and reduced fat milk to participants 2 years and older. So expanded the options to now more than just low fat and fat free. You can now do reduced fat and whole milk as well. Program operators are encouraged but are not required to make changes to their menus under these provisions. You have the discretion as the program operator to decide which varieties of fluid milk to offer. The revised regulations give menu planners more flexibility to offer fluid milk options that meet the dietary preferences of your program participants and are compatible with product availability, cost considerations, and other local factors. So, menu planners that are on the call, you can choose to offer whole and 2% milk. However, you are not required. The next memo was about the May SNAP and TANF files that are loaded to eScholar. So on this slide, it tells what batches that district needs, which batches that need to be near matches that need to be resolved from the batches that are listed. And then the next memo was about the state attendance factor for 26-27 school year. So just a little bit background information. Attendance factors must be determined prior to the beginning of each school year. The school food authority may use the annually determined state attendance factor, or they can calculate a custom SFA attendance factor. The attendance factor is the number found by dividing the total average daily attendance by the total enrollment. The attendance is based on the average attendance for the entire previous year or for a particular representative month of the previous school year. So for 26-27 school year, the state attendance factor is 93.21. So unless a custom attendance factor is requested by the SFA, the default will be the state's currently approved attendance factor, with the exceptions for RCCIs, which their attendance factor is going to be 100%. If SFA chooses or wishes, I should say, to utilize a custom attendance factor, you must fill out that SFA attendance factor form, complete it, and submit it with the supporting documentation to the main email address, childnutritionprograms@la.gov. And that form can be found on the CNP website. And again, make sure that if you do this, which we don't have many people that do this, but if you choose to do this, you need to submit the form and all the supporting documentation to us for us to review and approve. The next memo is another USDA memo. It's about the Buy American accommodation process for the 26-27 school year. So if you remember in 25-26 school year, we did have an accommodation plan or process that was approved. They extended it so we now can do it for 26-27. So this particular memo provides guidance on the school year for 26-27 Buy American accommodation process. The accommodation process provides the state agencies the ability to approve temporary relief for school food authorities that demonstrate they cannot meet the thresholds for non-domestic food purchases. The first threshold limit for non-domestic food purchases was implemented this last school year in 25-26, and it was 10% of the total commercial food expenditures. The non-domestic food purchases made by SFAs could not exceed this annual threshold, which was intended to shift more purchases towards your domestic. So for 26-27, it's going to remain at 10%. So if you are seeking a temporary accommodation from that Buy American threshold requirement, you can complete and submit the plan to Child Nutrition Programs at la.gov. We actually have the memo posted, and it's the last pages of the memo. We also have the form also posted on the website, so you can either get to it from looking at the memo, or you can just look for the form, but make sure it's for the 26-27 Buy American accommodation plan. If you submit it, we're going to process it. We're going to provide technical assistance to support that temporary accommodation to you if you're unable to meet that 10%, and work with you to increase your domestic purchases. I will advise SFAs that if you tracked last year, which you should have been because it was the first year you were tracking, and you're not meeting that 10%, and you still don't think you're going to meet that 10%, to submit that Buy American accommodation plan for 26-27, and then we can try to work with you to try to see what we can do to get you closer or to that threshold, because it's going to continuously decrease as the years go by. And as of now, we have still not received any further guidance from USDA regarding Buy American as to exactly what we will be looking for on reviews. Right now, we are focusing on the fact that SFAs are tracking their non-domestic purchases. And then once we receive guidance from USDA, we will let you know how in depth we have to go when we're reviewing that. And then the last memo is about the May Medicaid free lunch and Medicaid reduced files. So again, resolve those near matches in the batches that are listed for both public and non-public schools. All right, we have a few trainings and events to talk about. So today is the July monthly call. And then July 21st and 22nd will be our in-person training for new directors, which I have a slide to talk about that. And then mark your calendars. July 28th will be the NSLP application training. We do have a lot of people asking about when the application will be open. We normally try to open it around the time that we do the training. So around July 28th, make sure that you attend that training to know about any changes or upcoming changes that we have for that annual application. And then on August 4th will be our monthly call. I do know that's very beginning of school. A lot of people may not be able to attend that call because it's back to school, but that will be recorded and posted if you're unable to attend live. And then on August 18th will be the claims for reimbursement training. So those of you that need more information or need a refresher on how to submit claims for reimbursement, please mark your calendars for August 18th. And I believe all of these trainings are already posted on Louisiana Fit Kids. If they're not, they will be posted soon. So go to Louisiana Fit Kids to register. So we're going to have some recorded trainings available on Louisiana Fit Kids probably around mid-July. SFAs can use these recorded trainings and slides at your back to school trainings or as necessary throughout the school year. So we're going to have our traditional civil rights trainings posted. It will be the recording and the slides. We will have the traditional offer versus serve training posted with the slides and recording available. And then we're also going to be updating, or we have started updating our production records training. This would be something that we feel like be very beneficial for your school staff So we'll have that recorded and the slides posted as well on Louisiana Fit Kids. Again, our goal is to have it posted by mid-July so you can have it available for staff. So new director training. I know we talked about this several times. If you are a new director, please save the date and actually register for the new upcoming new director training. It's going to be July 21st and 22nd at Pennington. It's going to be similar to the introduction to school nutrition leadership that ICN offers, but we actually took that and we revamped it to make it our own and made a lot of different changes to it. So it's going to be specific for Louisiana directors. Again, we're focusing on these directors that have less than 2 years experience. However, we did open it up to directors that have up to 5 years of experience. If there's space, we are getting close to capacity. So if you are planning to attend or would like to attend and haven't registered yet, please register on Louisiana Fit Kids so we have an accurate count to know if we have the room is full or if we need to have a waiting list. If you have registered for a training, especially an in-person training, and you are now unable to attend, you can always go back and update or cancel your registration. And this is really important for things like this new director training or like the manager training that's happening this week at Pennington, because if we need to have a waiting list and we have people that don't show up, we could have put those people that were on the waiting list actually could have attended the training. So if you know that you're signed up for something and all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait, I can't attend, because we understand things come up all the time where you may not be able to attend, please go to your confirmation email that you received and go and cancel your registration. That way we can take your spot and give it to someone else. Let's talk about back to school trainings real quick. We will be offering a limited number of in-person back to school trainings. We will only be providing civil rights and offer versus serve. You can begin sending your requests, which I say begin, but we've received a lot of requests already. But if you're still wanting to request that, you can send to the general email address. Please specify the date and times and the location of the trainings. We are trying to schedule these trainings based on the availability of staff and in the order that we actually receive them. Like I said, we have received several so far, and we're trying to fulfill the ones that we have received. But if we are unable to fulfill all of the requests that we receive, the recordings and slides, like I just mentioned, will be available on Louisiana Fit Kids so that you can use for your staff trainings. Staff should be contacting this sometime this month, should be reaching out to you, that the ones that we've already received requests from, to finalize the dates and times and to ensure that we're able to get you. If we are unable to fulfill all those requests, though, we will also contact you as well and let you know. But again, that will happen sometime this month once we work out all the schedules of all the staff to see which ones we can accommodate. Hopefully we can accommodate all, but I don't want to make any promises. All right, one more reminder about the Louisiana Tray of the Week. So Kathy Carmichael is doing the Sun Meal of the Week campaign, which is 8 weeks. So it started in June and it goes to the end of July. Each week, the selected meal photos are featured on Louisiana Fit Kids, social media platforms, and their website. She's looking for photos from any of the Sun programs. So she's looking for Sun meals from the group meal sites. She's looking for meals to go that were delivered meals like in the rural communities. And she's even looking for meals from the Sunbucks, so the food benefits for purchasing those groceries that some families received. Just ensure that all of the photos accurately reflect that summer food service meal pattern. You can send the photos to Louisiana Fit Kids at pbrc.edu. And if you have any questions, you can contact Kathy Carmichael, and her email and phone number are on the screen. And so finally, I want to mention again about some upcoming changes and some changes actually that already occurred here at the Division of Nutrition Support. So first, the CNP website changes. So we talked about this over a year ago, and now it happened. It finally happened. So that old resource library is no longer available. But you don't need to worry. All the information has been moved to the new website. I have it linked on the slide here. So if you don't have it bookmarked already, you should bookmark this website. If you're accustomed going to the old resource library section of the website and you go to that page out of habit or because you have it bookmarked, you will see the screen as you see in that screenshot on the left. You at that point you're going to see a notice that says that this website will permanently cease operations as of July 1st, 2026 and no longer provide content. From there at the bottom, it directs you to the Child Nutrition Program's resource library on the new website. I say new, it's not really that new, but we're calling it new. The screenshot on the left, on the right is the home page of the new website. On the home page is where you click on either resources or memos, whichever you're looking for, to get to the necessary memos and resources. So again, get familiar with this new website, but don't panic when you get to the old one. All the information has been moved to the new one. One thing to note about this new resource library is the searchability. So you can filter by resource, you can filter by type, by program, by dates or how it's tagged, or even the title to refine your search significantly and basically pinpoint you to that relevant resources that you're looking for. So as you can see on these screenshots, the different filters that you can apply to narrow down your search to find what you're looking for. So you select the filters and then you click the search button and the results will be narrowed down. We are still working out some kinks that we came up with or we found out about when doing searches. So if it's still not showing up for you, the easiest thing if you type into the text box before filtering or don't filter and just type into the text box, you may be able to find it, but our IT guys are working on making sure that the filters are actually working as accurate as they're supposed to. So let's move on to some changes with the memos. We've actually talked about this previously, but I just want to remind everybody. So in the coming weeks, and it's already happening, you'll start to see less memos being sent out. And the reason being is that that information does not necessarily require an official memo, and instead it will be sent through an email blast. So for example, when direct match files are available, you're currently getting a memo. Well, this is going to change to an email blast. We haven't started it yet, but it will be starting soon. Another example is the notification of upcoming training. So instead of saying the upcoming trainings for August will be here and here, it'll come in an email rather than the memo. And then with the formatting changes and the style of the memos, we won't be using that nutrition support logo any longer that you see on the left. We'll be using that official LDOE logo that you see on the right. In addition to those changes to the memos, you're also going to see those changes starting with some forms and some resources. So you're going to begin to notice the changing in the formatting, in the styles of the forms and the resources. We're working on updating forms that have the official LDOE logo as well. Again, though, when you go to the website, the most current and the most updated forms are posted to the CNP website as they are completed. And so if the form that's posted on the website is the most current and updated at that time, but then when you go back the next time, it may be the updated form. Please note, because it is a work in progress, so it's taken us some time to get all of the forms and the resources updated. So just for example, here is an updated CNP agreement information sheet. So this is the form that is completed where when there's a change in the superintendent or the authorized representative or an address, email, things like that. This is the form that you submit to us. It looks different than the previous form, but this is the new agreement amendment information sheet. You no longer need to mail it in. You can just email it to the general email address, childnutritionprograms@la.gov. And just to note that the previous form was 1 page, and now with the new logo and accessibility, it is now 2 pages. So this is what the new form looks like that you can find on our CNP website. Same thing for the equipment purchase and capital pre-approval request form. Previously, this form was 2 pages. The first page was the form, and the second page was the pre-approved equipment list. Now this form, on the new form, the first 2 pages is the equipment list, and the form is on the first 2 pages, and the equipment list is on the last 2 pages. One thing to note about this form is we are now requiring building rental expenses. They need to be submitted on this form effective 26-27 school year. So all rental expenses must be pre-approved and assessed for allowability by us, by the state agency, before they can incur to the nonprofit school food service account. An email was sent out, I want to say a couple of weeks ago about this. So if you have questions, you can always respond to that email or call us or email, and we'll be happy to help you through it. So if you plan to assess rent, which is not very common, but we have seen it, if you're planning to assess rent for the 26 or 27 school year, or for the 26-27 school year, please submit that form with supporting documentation to the general email address. And then here's another form that's a pretty common form right now that we've being submitted. It's an updated form. The only change we really made to this was the adding the additional space to answer the question. So the form is now 4 pages. The first page explains the different types of procurement, that non-competitive procurement that you can request. The second and third page is actually the section that you complete with where you're answering the questions. And then that fourth page is for us to use to whether we're approving, not approving, and the type of approval that we're given. All right. Any questions? I know that was not a whole lot of information today, but if anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat. All right, I am not seeing anything in the chat. Oh, and just one more thing that I wanted to add is a lot of our links on our CNP website does link you back to USDA's website. And we are noticing that occasionally links are now are broken when you get to USDA's website. They're making a lot of changes. So if you run into that problem, just shoot us a quick email and we can do a little research and find out if that link is in fact broken from our end or if that is no longer valid on USDA's website. PLE tool is on the CNP website. So you just type in Paid Lunch Equity Tool or PLE and you should be able to find it under the resources. This presentation, the recording and the slides will be posted where the rest of the trainings are posted on Louisiana Fit Kids. It's usually posted within a day or two after the training. I have a question about whether this call counts towards professionals training hours. Yes, it does. You do get a confirmation email that you've attended the training with a number of hours that it credits for. So today's call will probably credit for like 45 minutes. You will get a confirmation email from Louisiana Fit Kids that you attended the training. All right, I am not seeing any more questions in the chat. So again, if you have any questions or any additional questions, you can always give us a call at 225-342-9661, or the easiest way to get in touch with someone is the Child Nutrition Programs at la.gov email, and that way we can get your question to the correct person. So with that, that will end today's call, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you.